Hello everyone, this is John Gilling with my co-host Gruesome Herzog, and tonight we have a very, very special guest, Michael Baldwin. Hello Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Gruesome?
Doing fantastic. Michael Baldwin, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
Our opening question, as it usually is how you actually got into film work in the beginning.
Basically my parents were both in the business. I come from a family of people in the entertainment business, and my dad, Gerard Baldwin, was a animation director and producer, and I started doing voiceovers as a 7-year-old for cartoons that my dad was working on.
And the first film to talk about would be Kenny and Company from '76. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's an awful long time ago, but basically, I went to an audition, a cattle call, with hundreds of other kids auditioning for a independent feature, and met Coscarelli and Paul Pepperman there, and auditioned for the role, got the job.
That's excellent.
Cool. Proceeded then to shoot the film in the summer of, maybe 1975 or something like that.
Wow.
And had a great time. It was a fun time. I think I was in the 6th grade.
One of your future, I guess you can say, co-workers, Reggie Bannister, ends up working together later on, obviously the same director. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Reggie was, he plays the school teacher, Mr. Donovan, in the show, and so that's where I met him so many years ago. And he had made a film previous to Kenny and Company with Coscarelli called Jim the World's Greatest, and so Don has over the years collected his troupe, enjoys working with the same people, so it's good for us.
Chemistry wise, you already have a lot of that chemistry already, so
indeed, we're like a family. Everybody's known each other for many years, and so we get together, and it's a pretty fun time.
You was in the TV series Fantastic Journey.
Yeah.
Can I ask a little bit about that?
I did quite a bit of television back in those days as a kid, as a young actor, and that was one of the things that I did. And, it's just episodic television in the 70s. I think Roddy McDowall was in that show.
Yeah, Roddy McDowall.
I don't think I had much of a part in there. Just, a couple of lines, pretty small.
Yeah, but I can tell you a TV series that I grew up as a kid watching is 8 is Enough.
Yeah, I did several episodes of that show. And
I love that show because, of course you know this, but I can remember when Karate Kid got big in '84, and then I realized that Ralph Macchio was in 8 is Enough a couple episodes. That was crazy.
Right. I can remember auditioning for the Karate Kid. I saw the most hilarious music video spoof that he did. I don't know if you've seen this or not. It's really hilarious. He apparently is just like the nicest family man guy that you'd ever want to meet, and he doesn't have, there's no controversy. He's not a drug addict. He's just like nice, normal guy. He does this very hilarious, sort of, quasi rap music video where he all the people, they have his family has an intervention. That's the story of the video, and they have an intervention because he's just not bad enough. He's not dirty enough. He's not crooked enough. He's not fucked up enough to have a career. So he tries to be bad. He tries to like, hook up with hookers, and he tries to do drugs. It's very funny.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure it has a name, a title or something that people could check it out. It's hilarious.
Just now touch on Phantasm. Did you have to audition for the part, Michael?
No, I did not. As I mentioned, Don had written that part for me after we made Kenny and Company, and I think Coscarelli had watching Kenny and Company with audiences had enjoyed the scare factor in it. There's a couple of moments in Kenny and Company where audiences leapt out of their seats a little bit, and he really dug that a lot. So he ended up writing Phantasm, and we had worked well together. So obviously. We did it again. Didn't take long. A couple of years later, and all of a sudden we were working together again, making Phantasm.
While you was making it, was there any idea that you was making something that was just a little bit different?
Not really. I mean, people often ask, did you know you were making something that would have such, such long-lasting legs. But no, you never really know what things are going to turn out like. I think that I know that when I saw a screening with an audience finally in L.A. back in '79 when it finally came out, I can remember being surprised that people were laughing. Like that there was comedy in it. I had been convinced we were making a straightforward, serious drama. So as I watched the movie as a 14-year-old, I can remember being kind of pissed off that people were laughing. I was like, oh, they're laughing? What? This is a comedy? I didn't get it.
Was it fun to make? It looks like it must have been fun.
Well, it took a long time. It probably took about a year. We shot mostly on the weekends and stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good time, definitely. Making movies is challenging, but fun, yeah.
Now, I think from in Phantasm, the two characters that I've seen kind of reminds me of like this little Jawas from Star Wars. When you're going through the cemetery and you took a spin on your motorcycle, and then you were getting chased by those two little things in the little brown outfits. I thought that was so cool, a different style of creature per se.
Well, people ask often, well, isn't it? Weren't you scared, or isn't it scary to make a scary movie? Whether it's Angus Scrimm popping out from a window, or whether it's little Jawa-like dwarves chasing you. And
right.
Filmmaking is a very slow process. It's very
right.
technical. There's lots and lots of waiting around. There's you have to do the same scene over and over again. There really is a fair amount of actual acting involved.
Yeah, right.
At least pretending.
Right.
So, it's not ever really scary. The only time it gets scary, per se, is you're doing stunts and stuff, or doing things that might be possibly dangerous. That's scary in just a normal way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I obviously I knew that answer, but it's. Now you were going to public school, or were you at a private school?
Public school.
Okay.
Los Angeles Unified.
Okay. Now your classmates. Now here's a good question. I guess I ask you. I don't know if your classmates were allowed to see it. Because of the age and all. But the ones that did see it, did they ever come up with you with some stupid questions, being that they don't understand the film industry?
I had already been in the business for a long time by the time Phantasm came out.
Right.
So, and I grew up in a part of Los Angeles that is really kind of more like a small town than being in the city, really. It's kind of the foothills of L.A., So the town that I grew up in was called Tahunga, and I went to school with all the people that I went to school with from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And so I'd been working already for quite a long time, and been on television, so people weren't surprised. People knew that I worked in the business. And since it's in Los Angeles, there were other people in my school that worked also in the entertainment business. So it wasn't all that unusual. Did people come up to me and ask me questions? No, not really.
Really?
They really didn't.
That's crazy.
Phantasm did get a regular theatrical release, as you know, and there certainly were TV ads for it at that time, and people talked to me more about that than anything else. Like, I saw your movie ad on TV last night, or something like that. But yeah, it's an R-rated film, and at that time, a pretty hard R too. So
yeah,
it seems tame now. When you watch it now, it seems tame compared to what is acceptable. But back then, it was pretty hideous. So most of my friends did not get to go see it. Some of them did, but not very many.
Okay.
Can we briefly touch on Phantasm 2?
You can touch on anything you want, John.
Okay. Right. For some reason, you didn't appear in Phantasm 2. Who made the decision on that?
Universal Studios made that call, and what a mistake it was, if I do say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that is the only Phantasm film that was made with a studio. And so, because of that, Coscarelli didn't really have control over the choices, and so they didn't want to cast me, and that was that. Bummer.
But you did audition for the part.
I had to audition for it and didn't get the job. So at the time, it was pretty devastating. It was a real drag. But I'm not the first actor who didn't get a job he thought he should have got.
No, I believe. This might not be true, but I believe that Brad Pitt also auditioned for Phantasm 2.
Yeah, That is true.
And he didn't get the part either.
He didn't get the part either. That's exactly right. I have actually had a conversation with Brad about that subject, and he told me that was the very first audition that he went on when he first came to town.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't get the part.
And he didn't get the part.
Do you recognise it as a dip in the Phantasm franchise? It doesn't stand up to the quality of 1, 3, and 4.
Well, I don't know. You know, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I hate that fucking movie. You know? On the one hand, that movie caused me a lot, Phantasm 2, caused me a lot of freaking headache and heartache. You know, at the time, it was very devastating to not get that job. It was a real drag. To know that my friends were off making the movie and I wasn't involved was horrible. So I really despise that film in every way. However, I also recognize that a lot of people were introduced to the whole Phantasm world through that movie because it was a universal release. It actually had a theatrical release, and a lot more people saw that movie than ever saw the original Phantasm. You know, a whole 10 years had gone by, so an entirely new audience came to Phantasm via Phantasm 2, and a lot of people really love that movie, but they certainly had a much, 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 much bigger budget. So, you know, I get it.
The thing that comes to my mind, if I can just briefly touch on that, is if they wasn't going to have you in the film, why didn't they just take your character out, go to another town, and just set it up? Do you understand what I mean? Completely.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. No idea.
I think that would have made more sense. Was you happy to come back for Phantasm 3? Because number 3 is my favourite.
I was happy to come back for sure. You know, it was a little bit bittersweet, but because by that time, I mean, wow, it had been a whole lifetime had gone by for me. I was a full-grown adult by the time Phantasm 3 came along. So, you know, I was happy to come back and, you know, make the movie. We had a good time.
And it definitely has some good comedic moments, but it definitely has some scary moments as well. At the beginning,
it's the most comedic of the film.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Near the opening, when you're in the bed and with the nurse, when she's on the floor, and the sphere comes out of her head, and it goes towards Reggie, and he goes, "Woo!" sorry for my impersonation, but that makes me laugh.
That's all right. Yeah.
So it looked like a lot of fun. On number 4, you come aboard as a producer. How did that come about?
Well, then another decade had gone by, you know, and Don approached me and wanted me to star in the film, and I really wasn't all that keen on the idea. I just didn't think that I just didn't really want to do it too much, unless there was some other reason to do the film, and producing the movie was the other reason. So basically, you know, we negotiated a deal, and then I was suddenly producing the film. And producing the movie and starring in the film at the same time was much more interesting for me, and a very challenging task as well.
Did you enjoy producing?
Yeah, I did. I enjoy producing now. I own a production company here in Austin, where I live, and we produce all kinds of projects. And so, you know, most of my experience in my adult life is behind the camera, not in front of it. So I enjoy it very much.
So do you enjoy producing over acting?
Well, it's apples and oranges. You know, it's completely different. You know, and as an actor, you're using one sort of skill set, and producing is just a completely different beast. Right. But I enjoy them both, and the thing that I like about filmmaking generally is just that it's a complex, you know, it's a big machine. It's a complex machine with lots of different parts that all have to coordinate somehow together, and it's challenging, and I enjoy that part.
Before we leave Phantasm, I've got to ask about Phantasm 5. Question is, I mean, does it make your head spin sometimes, the amount of times that you're asked about it?
You know, people ask me all the time the same 3 questions, basically. They ask me why I wasn't in Phantasm 2. They ask me when is Phantasm 5 going to ever get made, and I don't know what the other third one is, but, you know, it's just more or less it's the same simple question. So it's no big deal. I can tell you this about Phantasm. I can tell you this about Phantasm 5 coyly. You know, I have no information. I can neither confirm nor deny reports about the making of Phantasm 5.
God, he's
Folks will have to just take that with a grain of salt.
Michael, what you should do is get a little tape machine and tape yourself saying it, and then every time that someone asks, you can just click the button and it'll say it for you. But
I could do that, but people will be really hurt if I do that, because every single person asks me as if it's these questions have never been asked before.
Well, the reason that I bring it up is because obviously I've tried to do a little bit of research, and I'm sure that in 2011 that Don Coscarelli said that a script had been written.
Well, I can say that I really can't confirm or deny reports as to the existence or development of Phantasm 5, but I used to say quite confidently, hey, don't hold your breath. I don't say that anymore. So I let fans take that for what it's worth.
Right. And if it was to happen, do you think that you would come back on board as a producer?
I cannot answer that question. I think probably not at this stage. I'm far too busy with my own life to be doing that gigantic job.
Okay, the last Phantasm question then. If it does come about, would you be happy to play the role of Michael again?
Well, of course, that's exactly what I would do. That's how I would be cast.
Right, cool. Right, we've got Phantasm out of the way now. You'd be relieved to know. Right, you've written a couple of books.
Yeah, I have a children's book coming out soon, early next year, I hope.
What's that called?
It's called Love Always Wins, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Just Pick Up After Myself.
I'll have to get a copy from our children. But two previous books you wrote were, I think it was Sleep Achiever and The Real Billy Shears.
The Real Billy Shears is a novel in process. Been working on it for a long time, and it is unfinished.
And
Sleep Achiever is a little book that I wrote quite a long time ago. Now, however, a permanent part of the Getty Museum Center Special Collections Library.
Cool. If we can move on to Vice Girl, which you wrote.
Oh, please. I wish we wouldn't, but okay. I produced Vice Girls with my buddy Richard Gabai. Richard is a writer, producer, director in Los Angeles, working professional, as they say, and this is many years ago. We were both coming up as producers and writers, and he asked me to, he was working for, what's the name of that company? New Horizons, I think, at that time. Anyway, it's Jim Wynorski's company. And he said, gosh, I've got this project. I don't have time to write this screenplay for it. Can you write a 100-page screenplay in 10 days? And I said, of course I can.
Yeah.
And so, it's pretty impossible to write a 100-page screenplay in 10 days. But I ended up doing it, coming up with the first draft, and basically all I had was just that title. Vice Girls, that's the name of it. Go. It's, chick cops, they catch a killer, write a screenplay. That's pretty much it. So, I found that the only way to work so fast was to base these three female cop characters on. Well, at first I was writing, it was very difficult, and I was just kind of slugging along. And then all of a sudden I came upon the idea that what I need to do, I really need to base these characters on some other fictional characters that I know really well, and that way the dialogue will just flow very easily, and I'll know just what to do. And that turned out to be a really great idea. So I based these three characters in that movie on Kirk, Spock, and McCoy of Star Trek. Well, I'm a huge Star Trek geek, and so I was able to write dialogue for these three chicks all day long, and then I was able to finish the screenplay very quickly. The problem is that Richard, the director, was not a Star Trek fan. He was more of a Dragnet guy. So when it came time to make the movie, he really didn't get the million Star Trek references that I had put in this chick cop screenplay. And so, in my opinion, that's why the movie is not a success, because of that.
Well, I'll admit I saw it, and I admit.
Oh, you did?
And I admit that I like it.
That's quite an admission.
Hey, look.
That is there are A movies and B movies. That is a C movie.
Yeah, well, I've reviewed a lot of D movies, and I enjoyed them, right. So, Yeah,
we sometimes watch E movies.
I take a film for what it is, and, I enjoy watching films, especially if it's low budget, medium budget, no budget. I just enjoy films, period. And
yeah, I know what you mean, and I do too. I appreciate that point of view. I really do. I think that movie we made for about $120,000 in 1997. Yeah, so that's pretty low budget.
Yep. I actually review zero budgets, and I just, like I said, I enjoy the art of acting. I enjoy the ability for people to make a film with no money and use the talent that they have, and they pull it off. It's accomplishment alone just to make a movie. So
you're right. You're absolutely right. It is. I have mixed feelings about Vice Girls. The making of the film was really fun. I had a great time doing it. So the actual memory of the process for me is great. It's super fun. I had a great time. I got to write that character Trelane for myself. Trelane is a character in a Star Trek episode of old Star Trek, and I played him like a fop. Just like the Star Trek episode that I loved so much. But the producers of the movie, they hated it. They hated me. They just wouldn't even talk to me anymore. These guys actually thought that we were making a serious crime drama. That was the funniest part, is that I had written this comedy, this total Star Trek spoofed comedy, but these guys that were funding the movie, they really I guess they believed that they were making a real crime movie.
Wow.
So by the time they were looking at dailies and watching the film, they were so freaking pissed off, and they were especially mad at me.
Wow.
Which was annoying to me, but that's just the way it goes.
Yep. Well, the next film, you're probably going to be holding your stomach again. Virtual Girl 2, Virtual Vegas 2001. It's the same buddy, Richard Gaba.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell listeners.
I don't think I've even seen that movie. What do I play in? I'm like a doctor or something, right? Just one scene, right?
You have Dr. Pearson.
Dr. Pearson, which, of course, is my character's name in Phantasm. I picked that name.
Can we move on to a film that Gruesome seen? Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, and that's Brutal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, brutal. Very brutal. Anyways, hey, Michael, you contacted me a little while ago about getting a screener and watching this film. And Michael Patrick Stevens, we communicate back and forth. This film here has Alan Howarth, from the Halloween. He had some music made for this film. And to watch you, is it widespread release now or not yet?
No, it does not have a release at all yet. So okay. I would not give out any spoilers if I were you. It's really easy to spoil.
Yes, it is. Yep, but fine. To see your performance in there, it's a great performance for you, Mike.
Thank you.
Michael, excuse me. But, the music is cool. The plot line is cool. And, like I said, I can't really say too much about it. But I do want to thank you again. I said in the review, I gave you thanks for hooking me up with a screener.
Sure, my pleasure. No problem. I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, I did.
The developments of the film are kind of interesting. They've been going back and forth with various distributors trying to get a deal going, and there's lots of interest from distributors, and they're just trying to get the best deal that they can. There's a chance that we're actually going to go back and reshoot some parts. It looks like there's a chance they're going to get a little bit of money pumped into the movie and improve it. So I look forward to that happening.
Yeah. You did play a character of Carl Gibson.
Correct.
The man, the myth.
It was fun. It was a hard shoot. It was difficult to be strapped to that torture chair for most of the shoot. It was tough.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wrapped, by the way, on another movie. I just did a bunch of days on a film called The Pickaxe Murders 3.
Yes.
And this is an homage. This film is an homage, written and directed by a guy named Jeremy Summerall.
Yeah, I know who he is.
And he's a huge horror fan and real aficionado. He's one of these guys that just knows everything about horror movies from every decade and kind of a wealth of information about this kind of stuff. And he has written sort of a love letter to 80s horror and is making the film, making the feature. So Tiffany Shepis and I just spent a week together shooting our parts, and we had a really, really great time.
Yep, I know Jeremy. Definitely. Cool. Is there anything else that you have going on that you're allowed to speak of?
Well, I have, just multiple projects in different stages of development here. Some of them are features, other things are television. There are other writing projects, of course, that are ongoing. I own a publishing company here, and so we're publishing children's books with sports celebrity authors. That's our little niche, and so we're doing quite well with that. We just published Dennis Rodman's children's book, which was the most publicized and talked about children's book of the last 18 months. It's called Dennis the Wild Bull. And that was a trip to work with Dennis Rodman over the course of the 2 years it took to get that project completed. And stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you came on.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Really appreciate it.
Regularly attend the horror conventions or not?
Yeah, I do. I usually probably do maybe 2 or 3 per year.
All right.
Cool.
So, my last question is always my last question. Favourite horror film?
The Shining.
That is brilliant. Say something gruesome.
I'm not.
Say something.
Why? He hates that movie or what?
I don't hate it. It's just boring now. Watching it now is boring. But everybody has said that movie at least 6 times. 6 guests.
Well, listen, here's the thing. Stanley Kubrick is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. There are very, very few. This is just not my opinion. This is just standard information. There are very few filmmakers that have been ever born that are as good as that guy, and that raised the level of cinema to art. But he's one of those guys.
Right.
He's one of those guys, and The Shining is a very terrific movie. I'm not saying every single one of his films are genius, but that movie is freaking terrifically good. It doesn't matter that whether it's a horror genre or not. It just doesn't even matter. It's standing all by itself as a very fine film. I love that movie.
Following up from The Shining, because I always ask this, have you seen the documentary Room 237?
No, I have not.
It's out now, and it's different people's opinions as to the underlying themes that are in The Shining. It's a fascinating watch.
Cool. That sounds good. I'd love to watch that.
So I just thought Gruesome knew I was going to bring that up anyway. once we mentioned The Shining.
Well, Gruesome, let me ask you this. I've been put on the spot and asked by John what my favorite horror movie is. Gruesome, what's your favorite horror movie? You can only pick one.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And my second favorite would be The Exorcist.
The Exorcist is probably my second.
And John's favorite is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and his second favorite is what?
The Exorcist. Yeah, the same. I'd have to say the same. I'd like to say The Shining, but I can't move away from The Exorcist.
I can remember seeing The Exorcist when it came out as a kid. I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 12 or something whenever that came out. And I got into that theater somehow, and I was so terrified. By the end of that movie, I couldn't get out of my chair. I was completely freaked out by that film.
I bet.
Yeah, don't even start. Don't even go there. I'll start to pee my pants right now if you start going there.
Well,
and you know what? I never saw the movie again. I never was able to return to that movie. I couldn't see it again. I couldn't watch it. I didn't want to think about it. It just it really freaked me out. Yeah.
You
never saw it again.
You made a big mistake going that young, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Huge mistake.
But anyways, thanks for coming on. You're a good dude and a fun guy to talk with.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, really appreciate it a lot.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Send me the link.
Yeah, I will. Take care.
So long, fellas. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.